7-1 Entertainment.
There it is.
7-1 Entertainment.
What's the matter with you? Oh, coming in with a payday banger. Yeah, this one's wild hard. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Because that the piano in there is sick. If this is your first time watching us,
welcome.
That's the beat by Payday Jones. He's the Supercross analyst who sits across from me. What's going on this week in Supercross, Payday?
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't see anything about Supercross this week. I was busy watching the other races. I apologize.
Fair enough. The other races were on. So, what other races were you watching?
Well, you had like the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 500 was today.
Right, it was the Indy 5 today. I'm Cove, your T.W.D. OG. That's original gentleman, in case you were wondering. And this is a podcast without a name yet, other than maybe the T.W.D. Stroke podcast. But we'll get to that.
Which is perfect anyway.
When it sticks, it'll be stuck. You know what I mean? And then we'll leave it on the wall where it stood.
Absolutely.
We're here to assist you through your work day. Unless you're watching on a Monday night, then we're here to entertain you on a Monday night.
Whatever works for you. We're here for you.
Victor Coco is in the chat. What's cracking, Playboy? Also,
we're not going to tell you how to love us.
I'd like to give a major shout out to CRF Mark, who might not be listening now.
Right.
But he'll throw it on in his shed while he's out there working on bikes.
That is greatly appreciated.
And CRF Mark is kind of, I would consider him my motorcycle sponsor.
Yeah, he's like my
motorcycle sponsor.
Well, he's like one of the backbones for where the show is pushing towards now. If he's not out there coaching you up, maybe you don't feel as good about bike riding as you do now.
That may be true. It is Memorial Day 2023, so big shout out to the boys.
Bless up.
Wherever they might be, wherever they're stationed.
Across the globe.
Across the globe here. First off, you know, as previously stated before the cameras came on, I just want to make it public. I feel like parkour is a little bit questionable.
I heard what you were saying. I don't totally agree or disagree with you, but I hear what you're saying. There's the parts that look amazing where like they're jumping between buildings like you're in a video game. And then there's like the weird hustle between those sort of tasks.
You look like a kid. You look like a kid
walking.
Yeah, you look like a kid running from special ed class to the cafeteria because you're running a couple of minutes late.
It's like they're always charging up for the next jump, so they can't just get a full stride going.
At any minute, your books are going to go flying out of your hand all over the hallway somewhere.
Coil up their knees as they're running.
Also, before the cameras came on, we were discussing. You tried to send me into the lion's den with the wrong weapon.
You told me. Send you places. You want to go on adventures.
I do.
Part of going on adventures, like real adventures, is that you're ill-prepared for the adventure. Otherwise, it's not an adventure. It's just camping.
That's fair enough, but I don't want to know that I'm ill-prepared.
Right.
Before I'm ill-prepared. So
I'm in like a little tenuous spot, though, because I'm new to this, too, so I'm trying to learn, like, I want to send you on an adventure, but I don't want to get you arrested, so, like, there's this in-between line that I have to figure out how to walk.
I think I'm getting to be a good enough rider that I can probably dip the cop. I think I could dip.
Okay.
I think at this point, right? And it's going to obviously also depend on what part of the world I'm in, like if I'm familiar with the terrain and the landscape.
Right.
But I think if I'm on the Husky, the dirt bike, and I'm in Pine Hill and the lights go on behind me,
right.
I think 9 times out of 9.5 times, I'm losing that tail.
Dipping out to the other side of the water and you'll be fine.
Unless, of course, the Pine Hill police have dirt bikes, which they may. I mean, if there's cops out here that should have dirt bikes, I'd say it's Pine Hill. Pine Hill should have at least 2 units, you know? But, so Wharton. You tried to send me to Wharton State Forest, which I've been to Wharton State Forest. If you have the right bike, it's a sick place to ride.
Okay.
I went there with the incorrect bike. I had 17-inch rims and 50/50 street tires on there. So I spent my entire 3 hours at Wharton chasing 2 guys on KTM enduro bikes.
Okay.
and fighting against my bike setting me back because it has no clearance to get over anything, and it has street tires in sand that's about 8 to 9 inches deep.
So it's a combination of the loose terrain and the fact that you're obligated to use that particular bike because of the rules at the park that's got you stuck?
Yeah, you gotta have a plated bike, right?
All right.
Now, if I had a plated XCW, right? If I had a plated KTM, or even if I had a plated KLX with dual sport tires, that would be phenomenal riding.
Okay.
Even the flat stuff, like, because you said, well, what if it rains? How do you make outdoor in the rain? Even the flat stuff, that's like, because in Wharton, there's street-sized roads, dirt roads, basically, right? So if you got a side-by-side or a 4x4 truck, you'll get through there no problem because there's plenty of room. And then there's single track and double track kind of off of those roads. Once you get onto the single or a double track, you're hitting whoop sections everywhere.
Okay.
So if you have a supermoto, it's not going to have the clearance you need to keep going over those sections. Also, it gets super sandy on the single track. Now, the fire roads, some of them are, for sections, are okay. They're like gravelly, but I'd say 85% of them are like deep sand. Deep, soft, loose sand.
So I can't quite wrap my head around this, and hopefully you can explain it a little bit better. So I'm more familiar with driving cars like a Banshee versus driving motorcycles. And loose tarmac, loose sand, loose gravel presents certain challenges, of course. You have to change the way you ride on it and things like that, and how you accelerate and decelerate. But there's not a particular, if I had these tires, I would not be able to be on this whatsoever, except slicks. But how does one particular bike built to be on and off-road put you at a complete disadvantage versus another bike where you'd feel super comfortable?
So with my 2-stroke, it has knobby tires on it.
Okay.
As opposed to these dual sport tires that are really street tires.
So they're not really knobby at all.
They're not knobby, but they're like
they're like new dirt bike tires where they just have like the soft little spikes coming off.
No. They're kind of like what I have on my truck.
Okay.
Like they have grooves and deep grooves in them.
Deep tread, but not
a deep tread, but not a knob. Yeah,
okay.
And you want a knob coming out.
That I understand.
Other than that, the KLX has 17-inch rims, so my clearance is, I might have 8 inches of clearance.
Okay.
As opposed to like 16 or 14 or whatever I have with the.
Are you sinking into the sand?
No, but when you're going over a whoop section, right? Here's the hump.
Right.
Your front tire goes up, the bottom of your bike rubs if you don't have the clearance. If you have the clearance, you just boop boop.
I got you. I got you. That all makes sense.
Yeah, it's the boop boop.
The boop.
And in loose sand, you got to think you're on 2 wheels, so we're dealing with a different situation than being on 4.
Well, no, I understand that.
If you're on 2 wheels, you're kind of at the mercy of what the sand wants you to do.
Okay.
Like if I get up to 25 or 30 and go to make a turn, that turn kind of depends on how the sand moves
the sand's
underneath.
Gonna let if you're making that turn.
Yeah, how it moves underneath my tire. If you got the knobbies, it's still going to push sand out the way. You're still going to fishtail.
Right.
But it's a welcome fishtail. You kind of feel it, and you can
dictate it a little bit more.
Exactly.
Okay.
You're in control of the fishtail. As you can see, also, being that it's Memorial Day, you can see I brought out the white hat.
Yeah, well, yeah.
No white hats before Memorial Day, but
or after Labor Day.
Even though this one's kind of dusty, now it's all summer long, Daddy.
So that still doesn't necessarily, unless I missed it, if it had, let's say it had poured for 3 days before you went to Wharton.
Yeah.
Does that then make that way more accessible to you, or is the loose gravel or loose sand so deep that it really doesn't matter?
It might be a little bit easier.
Okay, but not the whoop section.
Nah.
Because the height,
not once you get onto the
height.
once you get onto the single track. No.
Okay.
And I can make it through that. I can make it through all of it because
Yeah.
I did. It's just not fun, dude.
It's not fun because you're gonna have to go ultra slow.
I'm
to make
fighting
it work.
against the
Yeah.
bike the whole time.
Right.
So, that's a thing. So, did you prepare something for bikes I touched?
I didn't because you didn't tell me which bike you were going with, so we can do this other thing. It's fine. What I was going to do, I don't know that it would have played out right anyway.
Okay.
I just saw another automotive show do something that I thought would be maybe interesting. Like they were going to talk about a car, so they talked about like the history of the manufacturer leading up to when they decided to make this car.
Right.
And then we go with, well, now you tell me about that.
I got you. The other thing is the main topic of the show this evening.
Okay.
So let's get into it.
Let's talk about converting people into destroying the environment.
Let's get after it. So, let's see. A couple days ago, I hit up the world famous Screw Tape. Not DJ Screw Tape.
No.
Not that DJ. Not DJ Screw. This is the world famous South Jersey hip hop
MC,
legend,
yeah.
Screw Tape. Which, if you've never heard Screw Tape rap and you're a rap fan, I suggest you look up Screw Tape with a K anywhere you listen to rap songs because he's as good as they come.
100%.
I hit him up. I say, yo, let's go ride, and we'll film a video. He's been wanting to use his drone. I'm looking to get content for the YouTube channel other than the podcast and the shorts.
It's kismet.
Yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely.
We go for, let's put the 2-stroke up against, because he rides an e-bike.
Right.
I've been trying to tell him he needs a gas bike.
Right.
But he's an activist for the e-bike, which I respect a man who stands on his morals and principles.
Sure.
So he meets me out there. We put the two bikes to battle. Let's so to speak.
Is this I mean, is this really even a battle? It feels like we're heading towards like when you're playing video games and your much younger cousin shows up and you hand them a not plugged in controller so we can pretend that we're really battling each other.
Now, I walked into it prior to like saying like, hey, screw, let's put the e-bike versus my 125 2-stroke.
Right.
Prior to that day, I was kind of under the impression that you're under,
Okay.
This is my little cousin.
Right.
Coming to play ball. Mm-hmm. Not Screw being my little cousin, the bike. The bike.
Yeah.
And so I kind of thought that it was subpar.
Okay.
And I don't know that it's subpar. After going through the whole, let's talk about the whole thing, then I'll give you my wrap up.
Okay.
Right? We ran a couple of different tests. We started with a lap time speed test. Now, we're in the dirt, and we run a lap. The e-bike was definitely slower.
Oh, okay.
On this lap time. But here's where I think it fell short. And I don't know that necessarily it fell short on lap time, right? But it goes back to the tires, right?
Sure.
The e-bike tires were more of a dual sport tire. They can get through the sand, but they don't have the same grip as the knobbies that are on the 2-stroke. And I'm brand new to riding the e-bike where I ride the 2-stroke all the time, so I'm more comfortable with it.
Right.
So when I first hop on, the 2-stroke I'm accustomed to, I can rip a fast lap and maybe not so much on the e-bike. Now the e-bike's handling leaves a lot to be desired.
Okay.
All right, the 2-stroke, now they say 4 strokes feel planted and 2 strokes feel like you're riding a little bit more on top of the earth.
Right. We were talking about that, yeah.
And that same kind of feeling translates in the other direction to the other bike. That's what his e-bike is called, the T.W.D, the other
T.W.D,
bike.
Yeah.
Translates in the other direction where I felt more planted on the 2-stroke and felt very unstable on the other bike.
Really?
Yeah. And I think that
kind of surprises me.
Well, I think that what's going on is a few things. I think one is that we're dealing with a Husqvarna, which is like one
gold standard.
Even though this is my bike is 15 years old, still in 2008 it was a top of the line.
Right.
dirt bike. But Husqvarna also has years and years and years of research and developments under their belt to be able to find like just the perfect dimensions for a bike to feel how it's supposed to feel.
Not to mention Husqvarna built your bike and not just some guy in his garage.
Right. Well, that's and secondarily, so that's what you have. You have a guy who's maybe on his 6th or 7th bike that he's built.
Right.
It's like it's a custom bike.
Yeah.
This guy has built many a custom bikes, but not nearly as many bikes as Husqvarna has built.
No, they've been doing it for much longer than him. They've had their practice.
So on the other bike, I felt a lot like I was on a BMX with an electric motor on it.
Okay.
You know, like it's definitely not. The other bike is definitely not a electric bicycle.
Right.
But it doesn't quite feel like an electric dirt bike either. Like I felt like with the 125, I feel like I'm sitting back and my bars are up here. I feel like I'm in the bike.
Okay.
With the other bike, I felt like I was up on top of the bike and forward. So it just didn't feel
posture
like the best. It didn't feel like the best position for really like attacking obstacles or getting yourself into some squirrely terrain.
Okay.
Not to mention that Screw has taken that bike apart 17 times last week. 17 times every week he takes it apart and puts it back together.
Gotta grease the parts.
And so I feel like there was a, and maybe not. Maybe the Husky would rattle too, but the 2-stroke engine covers any noises that you'd hear.
The can of attack.
But you hear the rattling, which is normal bicycle rattling. Like it would be normal because he's got like a derailleur and like pedals connected to a chain. So it's very normal downhill bike type of sounds. But in comparison to hearing nothing but the 2-stroke engine, it makes you feel like a little bit
like something
questionable about it. Yeah.
Because you can hear things that you should be able to hear anyway, but the rip roaring 2-stroke is just covered. It's like turning the radio up loud on an old car.
Exactly. Covers up all the sounds. So like the feel of it, getting on it, was not what I would have hoped it to be.
Now, before getting on the bike, are you genuinely like open-minded about getting on the bike, or are you already from the disposition of this is going to be silly?
No, I promise you that I went in with the idea of like, let's really see.
Okay.
Like, let's go in full open-minded. If the e-bike is the better bike, then let's call it the better bike.
Okay.
Because I'm having, it's irrelevant to me.
Yeah.
I'm about the truth. Yeah, I'm about the truth. So the handling and stability and ergonomics went to the Husky.
Okay.
As well as the speed. Now, I also think that the speed is given the course. Like depending on how you're racing it. I don't know. I believe, if I remember correctly, he beat me on the KLX on the street with the e-bike.
Okay.
I think it's faster than the KLX. But I also think that the Husky is a little bit faster than the KLX. So they may be neck and neck on the street, or he may have the edge on the e-bike on the street.
Just in a straight drag race.
But we didn't get there. We were in the dirt that day, so we didn't get there to kind of...
I mean, that's where you need to be, right? Like, sure, the e-bike, let's say it's, it's like Tesla and everybody else. Like, it's much faster than everybody else on a straight drag, but... That's not why you bought that bike. You didn't buy that bike to go in straight lines quickly. You bought that bike to be off-road. So winning the drag race is kind of an irrelevant accolade,
Well, Screw, I'll speak for him because we've had this conversation, bought that bike to be riding through the city.
Okay.
He never had really planned on being it's the same as me. He didn't plan to be a dirt guy.
Right.
But then you get on the dirt and nothing really matters
like
anymore. Yeah. It just doesn't matter anymore. So the speed really kind of, we could call it neck and neck. We could call them square, dead even on speed because it depends on the course.
Speed is null.
The biggest thing, so we did a hill climb. right? We said, look, let's take it to the hill climb and let's see what's what. And I was not really sure one way or the other. I kind of thought it would lean Husky because I understand the traction and the clutch work and kind of how that goes. He thought it was going to lean e-bike because it's just twist the throttle and it goes.
Right. There's yeah, right.
And again, he's at the disadvantage because of the tires. But the Husky tractors up. In first gear, the Husky will tractor up a hill. You got to work the clutch a little bit. And the e-bike went up the hill. And I think they were pretty neck and neck. I feel like I had a little bit more struggle with the e-bike. And when I struggle on the Husky, I can pull that clutch in and let it back out and re-grab my traction to kind of set me straight, like a little reset button. You don't have that on the e-bike.
No.
It doesn't have the clutch and the
It's not
gears.
a transmission at all. So you can't even make the decision that, all right, I'm too loose, let me drop down a gear.
Right.
Or I'm too wound up, let me go up a gear.
You got turn and go.
Go and not.
Which to some people that may be of benefit.
Right.
They may be interested in that. To me, I feel like that takes away from the experience.
Yeah.
Like it takes away from the challenge. And even though I didn't realize, I knew I was getting into a challenge with starting to ride, but I don't think I realized how in-depth of a challenge it is and how much there is to learn as you're learning it all. It takes you 20 years to be great, and then even so, you still got more to learn. You can still keep... The possibilities of learning new things on a bike are endless. So to me, that's a detriment, but that's really when it could go either way for you.
Push?
No, it's like a preference.
Okay.
Preference. Do you want a clutch or do you want just twist and go?
Yeah, this is the manual transmission versus automatic transmission debate.
Yeah. So being that we have the clutch, it helps with the hill climb a little bit. So I think that the Husky just edged out the hill climb. So anything that the Husky is winning it this far, it's just edging it out.
Right. It's not a blowout.
It's not what you would think. You think like, oh, this is going to be, this is going to be the 21 rule here.
Right.
You're going home after
rule.
3 things.
Yeah.
Right. Style. Right. Now, Screw tried his hardest to get me to buy an e-bike when I started bike shopping.
Okay.
And I was open to it at that time. Now, my biggest thing,
Concern?
man, I'm really not. I have no
Did you
words
have a stroke
tonight.
earlier after that
dude.
burger?
I was concerned with the look.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these
It's
e-bikes,
the freshest kid we know.
Yeah, a lot of these e-bikes to me look a little bit goofy.
Okay.
Right, like they looked almost cool.
Right.
There was a lot of them that look almost cool, but like
2 bolts away.
Something's just funny, and it wasn't working out. There's 3 bikes that I could think of that look great and that I would love. Right, the KTM Freeride, the Sur-Ron Storm B, and the Stark Varg is so-so.
Okay.
All 3 of those look like regular full-size dirt bikes, which is what the look that I was going for is.
Right.
The other bike is not quite that. The other bike is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And if style is a preference. It's not particularly my style, but it's not as goofy as a lot of the other e-bikes are.
Look closer to a mountain bike than a dirt bike.
It's somewhere in the middle. It's way bulkier than a mountain bike.
Okay.
And it's sized accordingly, but it's that like it's very it's like a lot of geometry.
Okay.
It's like shapes.
A lot of science.
Yeah, a lot of
these electric bikes.
A lot of shapes put together. Whereas to me, a full-size dirt bike looks like a dirt bike. Like there's curves in it, and you see the engine all there, and you got the the nice knobby tires on it and the stance that it sits in. And there's all these things that I was looking for as far as looks are concerned, and most e-bikes didn't have them. The e-bikes or the e-dirt bikes that I like all look like regular dirt bikes.
They're just disguised.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Which the Stark Varg is supposed to be the cream of the crop, they're saying. That's like just coming out now. I think one guy has one.
Okay.
And there's like 10,000 other guys waiting on theirs to be delivered.
Right.
But even that's supposed to be the cream of the crop, doesn't quite have the style that I'm into.
Okay.
It's almost there, but there's like something doesn't sit right with me when I go to look at the engine and it's just a big square block of a battery. Like that doesn't do it for me. I like to see the engine casing, and I want to see a carb with a couple of tubes coming off of it, and I like that. I like it.
Yeah, of course. It's manly.
So to me, the style goes to the Husky,
and it's not
pretty much hands down.
Yeah.
But preference.
Yeah.
I would say probably my competition that day would say the styling goes to the other bike.
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't, because I feel as though if you're a person who not only rides the e-bike but is pushing other people towards the e-bike, style is not your first concern, right? Like if you're at the point where you're saying I want to give up the gas powered for the electric powered, your reasonings are going to be somewhere other than because it looks cool.
Yeah.
Right. It's efficient. It's cheaper. Whatever it might be, and you're not wrong. But you're not first setting out to buy the dopest looking bike on the block.
Right.
You're out to buy an electric bike that functions the way you want it to.
Now, and I'll give you this as a side note, is that anytime that we go out riding together, somebody will stop to ask him what that is. Right? So it's a head turner.
Sure.
It's a showstopper.
Yeah.
So
That's not always a good thing, though.
I may be completely wrong here because nobody ever asks me about this clapped out old Husky.
Right.
But they always ask him about his bike.
Because it looks like every other dirt bike.
Clapped out old dirt bike. Yeah. So if you're looking for a unique vehicle, if that's your main concern, then maybe a T.W.D. is for you.
That's the way to go.
Now, one of the world's, the gas worlds, the combustion engine worlds, one of their biggest concerns or criticisms of the e-bikes is range.
Sure.
And I will say this. I would criticize it the same, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's probably one of the biggest reasons that I am glad to have bought a gas bike instead of being talked into an electric, because I will then have the ability to ride as much as I can on any given day.
Right.
Even if I run through a whole gas tank, all I have to do is go to the nearest gas station, or a lot of the times, depending on where I'm going, I have my 5 gallons of 2-stroke mix right in the back of the truck.
That's what I was going to say. It's not necessarily the range in and of itself. It's the ability to extend the range.
Exactly.
That makes the gas the better choice in this case.
Right. So, and they're just not there with the battery technology. Once they get to the point where you can pull up to a battery station,
right,
and tell the attendant, hey,
hit me,
swap me out or fill me up.
Right.
Whichever one it is, whether you're swapping batteries at the station or they have such a fast charge that you sit there for 5 minutes and you're charged up to full.
Like a pulse charge, yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to come at me and say no, I get full charge in an hour, that doesn't matter. It's still not relevant. Until you get full charge in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or until you can swap batteries super easy, that the range is what's one of the major things that's holding you back from reaching the populace.
Right. I was going to ask you that because for his bike, let's assume unlimited budget. How effective would it be to just carry 4 batteries in the back of the car, and when one dies, I pop the new one in? Is that a simple process, or is that going to require a lot of effort to put that next battery in?
I don't know for sure.
Okay.
But I believe it's relatively easy.
Okay.
I believe that it's easy enough that if you had 2, 3, 4 full charge batteries sitting in the trunk,
Right.
that you could be like, hey guys, I'm running back to the truck to swap batteries. I'll be back in a couple minutes, and it would be fine. So, you know, they're just not there with it. No. And that one easily goes to the Husky.
Yeah, infinite range.
Yeah, you just keep going and never have to stop. Now, I will say that as a here I go again.
Rookie?
No, consolation. As a consolation.
Okay.
We've only on the dirt. We've never had to he's never had a problem.
Right.
On dirt riding days, he's never had to hey man, I got to get out of here.
Fall back.
Yeah. We had 2 street riding days where he had to pulse and glide to get home on one day.
Okay.
And he had to stop and charge in the middle of us riding for 45 minutes on a different day.
Right.
So the street riding is a different story, but he's never really had a problem on the dirt. So
That's interesting.
So it's depending on what kind of riding you want to do, it may be null and void.
Yeah.
You might get 3 hours out of it if you're riding dirt and if you're close to home, you know? And and that might be all you're doing.
Good enough for you. Yeah.
In all reality, for the most part, that's all I would need.
Right.
You know, I'll take the KLX out on the road, but for riding dirt, you know, I'm out for 2 or 3 hours right around the corner from the house, and then I come home.
Yeah.
So it's not as big of a setback as maybe some people may want you to believe that it is. You know, you could work around the range.
Okay.
So all of these things, down the list, we pretty much go Husky, right?
Right.
I think the one winning category is bank robberies.
Oh, okay.
You know, if you're doing bank robberies, any type of shoplifting, maybe you're stealing copper from a warehouse.
Or an abandoned house, as the case may be.
Or you have to go purchase illicit substances off of a corner somewhere.
Yeah, and who doesn't?
You're going to win having an e-bike because of the silence factor.
The silence and the quick takeoff.
Yeah, you can move in silence, no problem. Yeah, the quick takeoff, I didn't think of that. You just hop on and twist the throttle. There's no kickstart, no electric start, nothing. You're just moving.
Right.
So I think for criminals, you really want to look towards the electric bike. If you're a man who plans on committing crimes and you're like, I'm going to be a new school cowboy, you know, and I'm going to go stick up banks and then hop on my motorcycle and get out of there, you may want to just take a look at some electric vehicles.
I hope those e-bike manufacturers are listening.
Yeah, start marketing towards the criminals.
Listen, if you want to rob a CVS of all its diphenhydramine, this is the way to go.
And who doesn't want diphenhydramine? So the Husky wins down the list for most of them.
But not convincingly.
Not by leaps and bounds.
It's always like a little bit more than just slightly more than a coin flip.
Yeah, it's pretty close on everything.
Okay.
So when you're looking into should I buy an e-bike or should I buy a gas bike, you're not wrong either way.
Right.
It really comes down to the preference points, because even though the T.W.D. didn't have as good stability, and it doesn't have the same kind of range, those are things that are probably minor details.
They're negotiable within the case of owning and using.
Well, if you're going from no bike to buying a T.W.D., you don't know the difference. So it's going to be it's going to be fully sufficient, and you're going to have a good time. The fun factor is there. It's a fun toy, for sure.
So if I'm in the market for a bike, and I've never owned one or the other, and I'm hearing you say the Husky wins, but it only ekes out a victory, is there a singular question I can ask myself that the answer would dictate you absolutely need the gas or you absolutely need the electric?
Which way do you vote?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh. Do you
But
own
that-
a,
but
do you
that
own
also-
a rebel flag?
Yeah, right. No. But that's also not true because I don't vote at all, and I'm going gas every time.
Right.
I think it comes down to like, are you into the classics?
Okay.
Or are you a man who's
You a
looking
future
to the
man.
future?
Right. You like the
know?
Jetsons or the Flintstones?
Like one of Screw's, one of his things is that he wants to be kind of like on the cutting edge of this new technology that is, without a doubt, going to keep growing and getting bigger and better, and at some point is probably going to take over. Hopefully, in my lifetime, we don't get rid of combustion engines completely because I love the way a two-stroke sounds and feels.
Right.
And I love a four-stroke motorcycle engine. I'll be glad to, when they get all the kinks worked out on electric bikes, I'll be glad to also have an electric because that's a thing that needs to be done and that's the direction we're moving. But I think I'll always want the classics.
I really like that for him, that like he makes his bread and butter is rapping like it's still 94, but when it comes to the bikes, he wants to be in 2094.
He's got an eye to the future. I like that too. I don't know that there is a single question. I think in a perfect world, you get a few of each.
Okay.
I would definitely, after getting 4 or 5 dirt bikes, gas dirt bikes, I would look towards an electric.
Okay.
But the money that it will, for me, the money that it would cost to buy the electric bike that I like. Can you look up the MSRP on the Stark Varg? I think it's like, I got you.
I'll probably other interneting things.
No, I don't. I'll probably get it sooner than you. MSRP Stark Varg.
About $1,300, $1,400.
Yeah, 13,000.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing then. Oh,
Yeah,
I spelt it wrong. Okay, yeah, 16,000. Right, I got it.
Oh, you got it at 16?
16.3. Yeah,
I got it at 12.9.
but that might be Canadian money, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, I think 12.9 is what we're looking at. That sounds about right.
Okay.
So to me, for 12.9, there's other bikes that I will buy first.
Right. Okay.
There's 5 or 6 bikes that I would want first before I thought about an electric.
Okay.
Now, if an electric of that caliber, of the caliber of at least the other bike or better, whether it's a KTM or the Sur-Ron Storm B or the cream of the crop, the Stark Varg, if a bike of that caliber was down at around $3 or $4 grand, I might think about it sooner.
So hear me out.
I will.
Stark calls us up. Listen, we want to sponsor the show. We love what you're doing here. We're going to bring brand new Stark Varg, color your choice, drop it at your front lawn, charger, everything, all the accoutrement. We don't ever want to see you on video anywhere riding gas again. What's your move?
Just on video?
Well, how else would they know? We don't want to ever catch you on gas. But we're not going to send spies after you, but we don't want to ever catch you on gas or advocating for gas. Tough call?
It's a tough call.
All right.
I think it would be cool. It also depends on how much is the check to sponsor the show.
It's the bike. It's the bike.
No.
It's the bike.
Not for
and
just
then,
the bike.
It's the bike and then a percentage of sales when they click the referral link.
We gotta talk solid numbers.
Okay.
Before I would start thinking about it. If they just want to give me the bike and tell me you can't get caught riding a gas,
Right.
I'm like, I'm not gonna get caught dead on this then. Scram. Scram, Stark.
Okay.
Now, if they came to me and they said, hey, look, we want you to stop riding gas. We're going to give you this bike this year. You get a new model every year.
Okay.
And we're looking at about $75,000 a year for the sponsorship.
Right.
You might not ever catch me on a gas bike
okay.
again. But shy of that, it's going to be a no for me.
So one other question from your review. You took issue with the posture of the electric bike, where you sat on it, how you were out over the handlebars.
The geometry, we would call it, yeah.
So because the bike is pretty much a hand-built piece of machinery, is that a choice? Like, could it be built to have, you sitting slightly different location, height,
Yeah.
to the handlebars and whatever.
If you get your frame built from the ground up, as I believe Screw did with the other bike,
right.
then you can get whatever geometrics you want. The problem would be for me in that case is I don't know.
Knowing what you need
I don't know what geometrics I want. You ask me about a BMX bike, the geometry of a BMX bike, I can tell you the measurements and the dimensions that I want for everything. I need 13 or less on the back end. I need a 70-degree head tube. I need a 21 top tube.
Okay.
Like, I know that, but there's I don't know the dirt bikes like that. Probably because there's so much in them and it's so in-depth. It's not like building a BMX bike frame.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
Now,
so, overall, in summary, if you don't know any better and it's your first bike, you should go gas.
I think so.
Okay. But yeah, obviously, this is your opinion.
I'll give you 2 reasons why. One is from where I'm standing, I made more friends who were like-minded on gas bikes than I think I would have made on electric.
Okay.
I don't know that the electric guys and me have the same type of things in common that the gas boys and me have.
Okay.
You know? And that could be a false statement. I'm just telling you from where I'm standing.
So
they're a little more clean cut, the electric boys.
I was going to say, I know you're goofing about it, but you said, how do you vote? And that'll determine what bike you want. Do you think the e-bike guys feel the same way about other e-bike guys versus gas guys? Like, if I'm a true blue e-bike guy, I'm going to like the community of e-bike people, and they're going to associate with me better than the gas people.
I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure
right.
that goes that way. It's
not like... No, the e-bike guys are all just snooty assholes or whatever the nice word for that is on YouTube, are snooty jerks, and they don't even get along with each other because they're all just, BMW drivers.
They might not. I don't know. I don't got a foot in the world, so I couldn't tell you. But they're not, they're not necessarily my type of guys. I ran into an e-bike guy on a job site.
Okay.
We were doing a job for him, and he had a cute little bike out there. It wasn't quite the other bike.
Right.
It wasn't on that level. It was definitely a notch below it. And he said something. He was like, I heard you talking about riding.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you see, I got bikes out there. And I didn't mean to say it anyway, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, yeah, I saw him. And he was like, he had made a comment like, oh, you guys are real riders, so my bikes don't count. Well, you said it, dude. I don't know.
Those are your words.
Maybe if you had a full-size dirt bike e-bike, you'd be cool to run with the boys.
Right.
Screw runs with the boys, no problem.
Yeah.
He keeps up on that thing, so it's not like you're being shunned from us. But I do think that the dirty knuckleheads, blue collar, smack talking, Newport smoking, weightlifting guys lean towards the gas more than the electric.
Okay.
Now, all that said, at the end of this day, we put old Sparky the electrician on top of the 2-stroke.
Okay.
Which there is a short on the channel that you can go. It's 3 shorts ago or whatever. Mm-hmm. Of his response to riding the 2-stroke, he hopped off that thing like he just got off of the Gravitron. He was gassed up and said the fun fact. He even said as much as I hate to concede, I don't want to concede anything about the e-bike.
Right.
But the 2-stroke, it's top level. The fun on that is top level.
Yeah, it's a different road to the same end game, right? The e-bike, there's nothing wrong with them, but the gas-powered bike as a whole, they're not really comparable, except that they're both two-wheeled machines that go off-road. The experience of the gas engine and ripping and the power that you wield with that versus the way an electric feels where you're just touching wires and moving.
Yeah.
It's one One feels like you're the Jetsons just floating through the air, and the other feels like you're the Flintstones running with your feet and making the car go.
Yeah. And I'm more of a Flintstone.
Right.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I said this to him at one point a few weeks back, before he ever rode any of my bikes. I was like, I'm telling you, cuz when you get that, like when you get a couple of CCs under your ass propelling you across the trail, you might not care about these e-bikes anymore.
Right.
And he's like, no, I don't think that's true. And it's probably not true. But now that he's been on a 2-stroke, it's kind of like, oh, I understand it. I see it now.
You think he's like sitting in his room at like 1 a.m. looking at regular bikes and then slamming the
sweating. He's sweating. It might be, dude. I don't know. He wants to be on the cutting edge of technology, and I think and he's learned so much about e-bikes. I think he probably stays that lane. And he thinks the way that I do as far as the e-bike. Like, he probably wants to get 2 or 3 e-bikes and then goes, all right, I'll get a little 2-stroker. Yeah. So, but it was a good time to finally kind of put them back to back. So check out the video when it comes out. Hopefully it'll be out this week. It should be.
Good.
Here's the other thing I've been thinking.
Good.
I've been watching something that I thought I would never be into.
The Kardashians?
I've been watching the Kardashians. Okay. I've been watching the Kardashians and Jersey Shore. I never miss an episode.
These are very different things, and how dare you sully the Jersey Shore by comparing the two?
I've been watching these rebuild videos. I've been watching guys rebuild bikes, strip them down to nothing, and start building them back up piece by piece. Even watching, there was a time a few months, a year, 2 years back, when maybe I'd watch you put the plastics on at the end of the build to see what it comes out looking like.
Yeah.
But I'm fast forwarding through watching you rebuild an engine.
But you didn't own a bike.
You're right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now I'm watching these guys rebuild 4-stroke engines. Mm-hmm. I'm watching them rebuild 2-strokes. 2-strokes, I think I'm all over it. Once you crack the case on a 4-stroke engine, things start looking a little confusing, man. The cam chain and it's too much, man.
Right.
But the 2-stroke, you got your cylinder, you got your carburetor inside your engine case. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. It's very...
Got some gaskets, and that's about the size of it.
Very much simpler.
Well, I mean, that's very on brand for you as a construction guy, right? Like, once you have something in your hand, you want to know how to make another one or break it apart,
how
and
it
put it
works
back together, and all that.
Yeah, it's not far-fetched, but I just didn't think that I'd ever be into the building part of it.
Right.
But now that I have that 2-stroke in the shed, and I have this starting to understand how an engine works, I would never think of rebuilding the KLX.
Not now.
1, because it's brand new.
Right.
2, because it's so much going on. The 2-stroke, the Husky, is beat to hell. It's clapped out. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, I'm like, well, maybe once wintertime, maybe when the wintertime comes, and I'm not going to be able to ride,
right,
I'll put it up on a stand. We'll start breaking it down and building it back up. So, but I'm wondering, right? Because you see the videos on YouTube where the guys are like $30,000 YZ250 rebuild.
Yeah.
Or it's a $25,000 50cc PW rebuild. Like, you spent $20,000 on a 50cc,
Couldn't you just bought 5 new bikes?
Yeah, right. You could have bought 10 new 50cc's for that. So I wonder realistically, like, what will it take me to rebuild the Husky? I don't know.
Well, if you're just straight rebuilding it, like, I'm sure that these guys who are spending that kind of money on it, they're boarding it out, they're getting bigger cylinders, they're opening up the cubic, whatever, CCs on it.
Yeah.
They're changing the cam rotations and things like that. You're not going to do any of that. I don't think that's your lane. I think, breaking it all down, cleaning it, like I said, replacing the gaskets, all that stuff, so that when you put it back together, it's airtight. I don't think it's going to take much to rebuild the 2-stroke for you. I think you need about 5 hours and a couple $100 worth of parts.
Yeah, but yes. if that's the case, right? If we're just rebuilding the top end,
cleaning it up and making sure everything is beautiful
for
the spring.
I'm watching these $20,000, $30,000 rebuilds.
Start getting the itch, right?
And I want this thing to be shining with new plastics and fresh. I want to break it down and rebuild it so I have a brand new 2008 bike. Now, I don't have $20,000 to do that.
Nope.
Nor do I see $20,000 spare dollars coming anytime in the future to be able to do that.
So today is technically the first day of summer.
Yeah.
Right? So you got 2 full seasons before winter kicks in. So you need like a part a week. And just keep stacking parts in the garage until you get to winter, and then everything you need is there.
That's what my motorcycle sponsor said.
Okay.
He said, just start buying the parts and stack them away. Which is an idea if I had any work coming in right now.
Right.
And then when I have work coming in, we got a whole bunch of other things to catch up on. But it would be sick, especially a bike like that Husky, because it's a unique bike, which I think presents probably some issues when trying to rebuild it. You know, like having to really chase down those OEM parts.
Well, it's going to come down to...
What does OEM stand for?
Original equipment from the manufacturer.
Okay.
It's going to come down to how many vehicles or whatever that Husky produced that have that same engine, right? Like with Ford, there's the Coyote engine or the 5.0, and it's in 9 different cars over the last 20 years, all those cars. So parts are just falling from the sky for you. But there's the Audi RS3 is the only car with that particular engine in it. Yeah. Those parts are real hard to come by.
Right.
So if Husky had put that like in that bike and in 3 other bikes and they kept producing it over a couple, those parts are going to be there. It's going to be a matter of the exclusivity of the engine itself.
I believe it's in 2 bikes. They built 2 bikes.
But how long?
The CR and maybe the MR or the SR or the S. Before now they have the TE and the TC.
Okay.
That's their motocross and enduro, right? Enduro being the trails bike and the motocross being obviously the race bike. They had the CR and the whatever the other one is, the XR or the I really can't remember, but I think those were the only 2 125cc engines that they built.
Okay.
That engine went into those 2 bikes.
But how long did they make that bike for?
As far as I know, I think they changed in 2013. But you got to think, right? I don't know how much they've changed the engine from 2002 to 2013. They may have made 6 different changes every 2 years. So I don't know how easy or how tough it'll be to rebuild it from the ground up. I think if I ever plan to do a rebuild, I need 2 things for the first one. The first thing would be probably a bike that's very popular.
Right.
A KX220, a YZ250, a Suzuki RM, something that there's a lot of those bikes there where parts are going to be readily available.
Right.
2, I could probably use a garage.
Well, that wouldn't hurt.
You know, the shed gets real tough to work in, especially if I'm trying to work to the point where I have a bike on a stand in pieces spread across the shed. That's not going to really work out.
A second shed.
Yeah, that could be a thing. I don't think I haven't thought about it. I've thought about maybe building a shed just for the bikes.
Right.
And for the gear and stuff like that, but, you know, I'm just not... It's not on the list right now.
That's why I want to put a garage at the house, because we don't have one, and like I can't even do my brake job unless it's definitely not raining and it stays light long enough for me to do it. I don't like that. I want to be able to do those certain little things.
Well, I'm not working this week, so if you want to put a garage on, let's do it.
Now's the time.
Let's start tomorrow. So at some point, I'd like to get into that. This is why I get into so many different things, dude. I don't want to die without doing...
Oh, okay.
Well... I could take forever as long as I got the strength to keep doing stuff.
Right.
I don't want to die without doing the things that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, like my wife in a heated discussion made mention to me like, well, what do you think it was a smart financial decision to start riding dirt bikes and spending thousands on all this gear? I'm like, no. I don't think it was a smart
Terrible
financial decision.
to be honest.
However, I've wanted to ride dirt bikes since I was 6 years old. My
Right.
dad had 2 dirt bikes in the shed that never got rode. He had these old 1980s. It had to be a Yamaha and a Suzuki because it was a blue one and a yellow one. I don't remember what they were. He doesn't remember what they were when I asked him about them. Apparently, they belonged to my grandfather or something, but they were in our shed. I don't know. But I remember those being in the shed and wanting to ride them. So for at least 30 years, I've wanted to ride dirt bikes.
Right.
I had the opportunity to go get one.
Made it happen.
I did it. Was it financially smart?
No.
Probably not.
I don't think it ever could be.
No, it could never. Well, unless you're
completely set, every bill is
You
paid
gotta be real
off,
comfortable.
You're good to go. And
Right.
your kids are good to go.
But I'm not going to kick the bucket without having dipped my toes in riding the dirt bikes. And now, you see the passion and the love that I have for this.
Yeah. Should have been there all along.
Yeah, I get annoyed with myself. You better believe that I get kind of annoyed when I think like, man, I should have started riding when I was 18. I should have took all the paychecks from my first job that I had at 16 and went and bought a clapped out 125 2-stroke, and I'd be at a different spot right now.
Yeah.
Whatever that spot might be, whether
It would be
it's
certainly different.
I wish that I started and had a career in the dirt bike industry at 16 instead of now being 38 and trying to eke my way in through a freaking podcast. You know, like I found after 37 years of life, I found a passion that lights a fire under me like not too many things have done prior.
Right.
BMX came close, but also there was still that like, BMX is kind of still for kids. It's for the young men. Right. You can be an OG on the trails, no problem.
Right. Nobody gets mad at the gray beard on the trails.
No. And you could have, the old heads are the guys who have 17 bikes in their garage because they've been collecting for 30 or 40 years.
Right.
I got a late start, man. I might not ever have 17 bikes.
You're going to have to catch up.
I got to start buying more bikes.
So you either got to start buying more bikes or you guys just plan to live till you're like 120, 130.
I'll try that.
Yeah.
We'll head in that direction.
There you go.
Right now, everybody's talking about these new 2024 KTMs.
Right.
They look sick. Mm-hmm. They've been they're saying they're 95% rebuilt. Like they've basically...
Like start from scratch.
Yeah, they've basically scrapped the plans up until now.
Okay.
And I want one of those 150s so bad, dude. I'd do some funny things right now if I knew that a 150 XCW was showing up on the driveway tomorrow.
You want me to cut the audio? Or
Only if you got a bag full of 10 grand with you. Man, they're so sweet. But I'll get one. It just might not be till next season or the season after. And that's when I start to get annoyed. Because then I'm like, I'm going to be 40.
Right.
And then I'm going to finally get it.
You don't want to be 40.
You know? I should have been started this way earlier.
Yeah.
We still didn't get to the Cali ride laws.
No. Or Meghan Markle's illegitimate child.
No, and that's big news, but we'll save that for the Patreon.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We'll be here next week, as we are every Monday at 8:30. If you've stumbled across us, stumble your way over to that subscribe and like button and all the other things that they ask you to do when you watch a video on YouTube. We're on audio only if you want that. And if you like the music that you hear, know that we got the Payday Jones Presents Juvie music coming out very soon with a whole lot more of it. There'll be a whole lot more of this next week. We hope you're back. We sure enough will be. We'll catch you later.